Welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. I am Aurora. Today on the agenda, on the scheduled official agenda, is Level 1, Lesson 12, which is Energetic Anatomy and the Sun. But before we get started on that, I have something else exciting to do. So, wait, let me clear something off of my screen. Every week, for every class that I do, I always do extensive preparations before the actual class. So last night I was sitting down and I was going to go over my notes and look at all of this. And I rewatched my own videos. I have them on my YouTube playlist. I pulled up YouTube and this very interesting video came across my screen and I watched it. I don't always have time to be able to delve into other people's sharings. I was very impressed by it. Let me give a little screen share so that you can see what this is. I'm not going to play it here in my video, but I want you to be able to see what's going on here and find this if you want to watch it on your own. So the name of the YouTube channel of this person that I'm recommending is The Alchemist. And this particular video that was incredibly impressive to me is called False Light Deception. What is the false light? And so before we get going on my usual curriculum, I want to speak to this video. And also before that, because sometimes the algorithm is your friend, near infrared light, deprivation and our health. This is from Dr. Bean Medical Lectures. This also I'm going to refer to in when I'm talking about my curriculum today about sun gazing, your energetic anatomy and the sun, and how this relates to some of the more material-based observational five senses things I've been learning about near infrared light and how it affects various different cells of our body, organelles of our body, meaning mitochondria, cell-to-cell communication, metabolism. Basically, this is another bridge of comprehension about how we are eating light and how very important near infrared is. So I'm going to refer to that later. But as long as I pulled up this YouTube, I wanted to be able to bring some attention to these two things. I'll include the links for both of you. So the one that is about near infrared light, the red light panel, near infrared light, deprivation, and our health. And this one is really interesting because it talks about basically a subcutaneous circulatory system of light and other aspects of it. But before we get going on that, let me talk about this really interesting false light deception. What is the false light video? So, and I came upon that channel from the wonderful Discord link, because some really, really interesting conversations happen over there. This is the Discord. It's not only open to my wonderful Patreon patrons, it is open to anybody who's, a good person to be able to go in there. So if you would like to participate, email me and I can send you the Discord link. So there was a different video that was shared from the channel about the Alchemist that some of the chatters in there were interested in. And I checked that out. And then from there, it led me to this. So what? Doodle it, doodle it, doodle it. That's my little shorthand for rewind, rewind, rewind. Why am I talking with you all about this? Because I watched this video last night when I was, about to be preparing for this class, and it really profoundly affected me. And then I spent all night last night dreaming about it and thinking about it and woke up at 4:30 in the morning, totally in that dream reverie, having so many insights based on that video. So very worthwhile video, not a total endorsement of everything that that channel publishes. And so here are the things, because you know me, I'm always going to take issue with certain things, or not a total endorsement, going to criticize certain things. So the Alchemist channel talks about the fourth dimension differently than I talk about in my classes here. So I'm talking about the fourth dimension as timelines, like the lollipop sticks with lollipops on top of it that I always use to represent time in my time diagrams. But this is their verbiage, ways of using words to describe the fourth dimension is different than mine. But we agree on the sense of calling it an astral realm. It can also be considered the lower astral, because I also tell you this: don't get in your Merkaba, your car, your vehicle for interdimensional travel, and drive to a bad neighborhood, which is pretty much the personification of what the lower astral is. It's not a place of cosmic law, freedom, orderliness, appropriate behavior, self-responsibility. That's not it. The lower astral is not in energetic free-for-all, like, because I am actually in value system regarding freedom. In many ways, it is not a free-for-all, but it is a corrupt area, I would say, is the best way to be able to say it, with many, many thought forms that are there that are unhealthy, either fragmented, partial thought forms, or completely fabricated thought forms. So all of this relates to what I have experienced over the past 2 years, that I will first of all aver my complete sanity in what I've experienced, although I love, and we all love, our brothers and sisters who have mental illnesses, people in our world, like, there's nothing wrong with you if you have mental illnesses, but that is not what I've been going through. I'm not going through like a schizophrenic dissociative disorder or whatever, borderline personality disorder, not having a diagnosis. And my experience being here as Aurora for 18 years was very, very radically different than my experience over the past 2 years, which absolutely coincides, this radical change of my inner landscape and what I've been experiencing in terms of what I perceive with my inner vision and my Christ connection, my Christ consciousness, my pineal gland, and what thought forms I'm interactive with changed radically within the past 2 years. And you know what also changed a lot within the past 2 years? Wait, since this is going up on YouTube, I'm just gonna write it out here. Got it. You got it, guys. You know what I'm talking about. That's what also really changed over the past 2 years. The beginning of that thing that I just drew for you there in the whiteboard. And that frequency being a complete transformation of our interactivity with the world of thought forms. So here are the things that I take issue with. I'm going to start with my criticisms of the false light video. Talking about the fourth dimension as if it is synonymous with the astral realm. These are not synonymous in my teaching, but that, just to be very clear, the astral realm, I agree, is a place that is a place between worlds, similar to the membrane of death. But I also realized that this is why I want to begin my teaching here with this new or refocusing of the curriculum, what happens on the membrane of death, because I also recognize a lot of people that are here that I'm connected with, that are beautiful people. They have loved ones and family members and different people who have died or passed on, or who are going on their journey of being a non-physical being who once were physical, all right? And I think that people have a lot of questions about structure of reality and what is actually going on. So I want to make a huge distinction about what type of thought forms are in the astral realm. When I talk about dead people, and when I talk about putis, and when I talk about this boundary over here, which is known as the membrane of death, there's two just distinct categories. One is the category of people like you and me. We have multicellular bodies. We have been born of parents, got a mommy and a daddy, and we were born, had a childhood, went through stages of personal development, developed or grew in ego, which is the narrative story of self in response to various different cultural and personal life experiences or contexts. And then the death is essentially, a dead end of that particular timeline. But then what happens to that person? Here's the initial consciousness, which is like, the center of the Tootsie Roll pop, right? And then layers and layers and layers of ego, which is the hard candy shell over the center of what's at the center of the lollipop. When you go onto the membrane of death, what happens is the slow or fast dissolving of those layers of narrative self-structure, which also coincides with life review and a sense of a self-assessment as guided by cosmic intelligence that then brings a consciousness back to its core, the Tootsie Roll center of the Tootsie Pop, that then in my teaching circulates back around to the beginning and starts again from a slightly different direction, but with greater wisdom, greater accrued wisdom in now having a slightly different set of parameters, approaching life slightly differently, and the experience of being alive, not as a torture, an endless hamster wheel of torture, but a refinement process of going through, various different refocusing of values, perspectives, viewpoints, information, and personality characteristics. All right, that's, I know, a mouthful. Contrast that, you and I, our journey, and of course, what we eventually do is transcend death. There eventually, at a certain point, there's no more hitting the membrane of death. There is just being completely focused on the target, which is the source, which is also the destination, return or reconnection to that God self. That is also the source that emitted you, the experience of being in reality, and a return to remembrance that you have emitted yourself into this reality. Contrast all of that with thought forms that are purely in the realm of thought forms. You could call them astral entities. You could call them entities. You could call them negative thought entities, and they have different values in terms of what they are, what they do, or how they self-describe. But what I like about that video very much is that the speaker calls out the sense of the astral realm having various different qualities. And this particular bad neighborhood, I think, is a neighborhood that I have been non-consensually interactive with, or imprisoned or held hostage there quite a lot over the past 2 years. So that neighborhood and those thought entities have never been alive. And that is very big. So I would say those are the pesky occupiers of the interstices or the peanut gallery. Those are pure thought forms that never had an embodiment. Why does this distinction matter? Because in order to be alive, my piano is not on. Wait, is my piano on? It is on. Hold on. In order to be alive, that sounds nice. I've got it set up with all sorts of reverb. You have to play the correct music. You have to have a certain set of personality characteristics, as well as conformity in your biological structure to certain cosmic laws and laws of the way metabolism and energy are structured in order to be alive. You have to play the music of life. That's why, I don't look like a purple unicorn or have some other strange form, like I have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. Why is that? Because I am playing the music of life in the symphony of life, as opposed to in the purely astral realm, the realm of pure thought forms. There is no requirement to conform to a certain set of parameters, which are life upholding. Don't have to be shaped in a certain way or have certain foundation parameters that sustain those of us who are actually alive, playing the music of life. It is possible for a construct there that has never been born of parents, never went through childhood and development, and it can be arbitrary. It can be put together in very arbitrary senses, both its characteristics and its form. It can be what we would call grotesquely deformed. You could have 12 heads and 5 faces and, eyeballs hanging out, the most wild and unpleasant appearances, because those thought forms don't have to actually be alive. So this is very big because, all of my paintings and all of these things over here, I am very much a proponent of cosmic law and of following this divine pattern of intelligence that promotes life. It creates longevity and coherence. Your thought waves stick together, and longevity, you stick together and continue onward. And that's what each one of us is trying to attain. But to contrast that, something that is purely a thought form, that has always only ever been a thought form, can be shaped like whatever because it doesn't have to be alive. You can think of it as like a cartoon world, but I think that that's far too accommodative for some of these presences who are extremely negative and often extremely unpleasant in their appearance or repellent in their appearance. And the answer or the reason for that is like they can shape themselves or be shaped as almost anything. They don't have to be alive, but they are not the dead. They are not the dead. So this is a big affirmation and refocusing of my teaching to anybody who has loved ones who have died. Probably almost everybody has someone that you love that has died. The dead who once were alive with us in this level of reality that's here circulating through the time vortex. And, eventually we will ascend and become ascended masters. Very, very, very different quality of energy and quality of consciousness than something that is purely a thought form. And things that are purely a thought form, not only do they not run on, they do not eat love as we eat love, the reciprocal sharing of energy. They also, it must be important because my mind is attempting to be distracted here. Hold on a moment. That was the big part. They don't eat love, and they do require creative life force energy, all of which is hijacked, stolen, or misappropriated from you or me, or those of us who actually have life force energy, but they don't have it. So even those who are dead once had life force energy, but then they died. But these are things that never had life force energy. What would be an example of that? And so if I say to everyone in the class here, let's create an astral thought form in your mind's eye. Let's paint the picture of like whatever, a giant purple unicorn. And then we'll all like put lots of thought, emotional energy and other things and believe, like the way that you believe in Tinkerbell. Peter Pan, that old story, and you have to believe in Tinkerbell. Everybody clap if you believe in Tinkerbell. And that your belief is then in many ways harvested or directed towards the upholdment of this particular thought form. You are, in a sense, giving birth to it or creating it, and then it is sustained by the emotional energy, connection, fervor, belief of you as a living being. And so blah, 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 blah. So one issue that I take in her video is that what I've experienced over the past 2 years is purely technological, even though we recognize that humanity has been facing challenges in terms of its ascension and remembrance of God's self for many, many millennia. And, there are many different words for this in terms of like spiritual teachings, living in a world of illusion. We've been living in a world of illusion for a very long amount of time. That is not only within the past 2 years. What has happened within the past 2 years is a completely different way of creating a frequency confusion, which is what I drew on the whiteboard for you over there. Go to the whiteboard fast. This is frequency confusion. I'll draw it for you. This is it everywhere. This is all this stuff going everywhere. These are not harmonically perfect, divinely ordained waveforms at all. In fact, if anything, that represents false light perfectly. What is the difference? Because, I have my class that is all path of light, and I love teaching path of light. And when I focus on path of light, I focus 100% on the light of truth. Light is synonymous with intelligence and data and truth and sentience and awareness. So what would false light be? It would be not darkness, but instead a selective rendering from that totality state of all light, which is all information. Like, I'm just going to take a selective amount of this, this, and this, and maybe overemphasize it, or maybe place it directly into your mind or in your path so that it is unavoidable. And that is what I would consider false light. So I take issue with some of those things, and also with the sense of characterizing the most recent modern experience and even ongoing planetary challenges over the past millennia, not a rite of passage. Big, 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 big. Because what I wanted to talk about in this presentation here today is about the false astral realm, false imposters of Christ or Jesus Christ, and how that has sometimes been used as a way of bringing aspirants down who are at a high level. that I feel like what I've been going through for the past 2 years. So I'm sorry, I'm so fragmented because of course I have so many thoughts on my mind, and I wish I had done this class at like 4:30 in the morning with you guys because I had so much just like fresh hot lasagna in my mind at that moment. The sense of, you can tell it's so like there are so many things that are trying to knock me off balance in what I'm trying to share here. Erroneous thought forms that are seen to be a type of membrane that a person down here is going to have to break through this stratum to get to these areas of freedom over here. That's apt and fair. Like you're over here, going to have to get through the astral and the lower astral to get to these areas over here. But what if you're already at these areas over here? So I love and respect that video because the speaker talks about the sense of the lower fragmented false light astral realm actually preying upon or hunting for those aspirants who have already technically transcended that stratum. Already made it past. Like imagine you've already graduated from 3rd grade, but imagine the 3rd grade schoolyard bullies being like, oh yeah, I know that you're up there in 6th grade, but I'm going to take you and make you go back into 3rd grade. And this sense of an unwilling, unfair, non-cosmic law placement of that person who has already attained and has already gotten to those levels. And then also I talk about this too when I talk about soul portage, cosmic washing machine, and yoink, yoink upon death, which is also very distressing when you think about your loved ones, because you should get what you deserve at death, not die, leave your body, and then like that carnival claw, that reaches down and picks up stuffed animals, the carnival claw reaching down, picking you up, and yoink, instead of going on your cosmic journey the way you're supposed to go, kind of ratcheting you over, and then dropping you into whatever context or milieu it chooses for you, erroneously not as part of divine intelligence and not as part of divine willpower, all of which is totally distressing. So tractor beam of the soul, totally distressing that some form of technology could subvert or affect you or anyone, anything on its soul's journey. And also very distressing from my personal experience of having transcended that level and then being unwillingly drawn into direct participation with it. And then also I've been through many, many cycles in that level of, trying to figure out where's the wormhole, how do you get out, how do you respond to this? And so that I think is brilliant as that part of that video. And I'll just go through a few other things, just in no particular order and total fragmentation. The false light video also talks very well about the hierarchy of the false light area of the astral realm, the hierarchy as mirroring or even being the precursor to the military industrial hierarchy that we know of in our realm of the 5 senses of the living. So one of the mistakes that I think that I had been making in interacting with these purely astral entities was the presumption that they once lived as like a military man, an army man or whatever, died and then went to the membrane of death and continued their contract or continued their experience as their momentum simply carried them onward, their ego, slow dissolve lollipop, simply carrying them onward with that similar personality characteristics and motivations through their afterlife experience. And so there were so many things there also about like pity, victimhood, levels of personal responsibility, levels of personal freedom, all those different things. But all of that just goes quite out the window when you recognize that anyone or anything that has ever been alive is always going to be a second-class citizen in this astral realm that is populated by things that have never been alive, the things that have, so that's what I wanted to say, that I'm coming up with like a new word to talk about things. There are those who were never alive. We could call them the never alives or something like that. Now, Pedro is here today and he came up with the acronym PUTIs from a long time ago, and that's very apt. We who are alive do not become PUTIs, but those who were never alive are the ones who would be defined as PUTIs, and they have this type of hierarchy that is well described in the video that I'm sharing with you and referring to. And that hierarchy, why do I bring it up? Like, some of this touched me deeply, and I wanted to talk with you guys a little bit about my experience over the past 2 years and what I've been through. Not insane. I feel like I have to constantly affirm that to you, although definitely it is designed to make people go insane, or designed to have them fall into despair. Not insane, not in despair, still fully cognizant and analytical of what's been going on. And that's in large part because of Flying Rainbow Lasagna and my capacity to continue, like, I store who and what I am in the cloud, the stellar network. I'm constantly returning to factory settings and re-upping, retaining my divine information and perspective, even while I've been in this interactive with negative thought entity beings in that place. That is a place that is designed to make you insane. You get it? And a lot of, again, we love our mentally ill or emotionally challenged or emotionally imbalanced brothers and sisters in the world. If you have something like that going on for yourself or family members, like, you are loved with compassion. So I'm not trying to cast aspersions in the way that people look down or speak badly about, like, people who are insane. But that a lot of diagnoses of particular whatever problems that people have, I think, are directly related to these negative thought entities and those who were never alive, inhabiting or affecting the lives or afflicting those who are alive. So those who are alive and end up on the membrane of death will always be second-class citizens within that hierarchy. That hierarchy is also an amorphous, undefined hierarchy, where it will always say that, like, there's always something that you're a carrot that is being dangled, that you're being asked to reach for in attainment. It is undefined, but it is, like I said, the temptation. Sometimes it might be about freedom, or it might be about peace, or it might be about a sense of going to heaven. So everything, what I wrote on the whiteboard, that frequency soup that has been created here has also created a false paradigm of a false hell on earth, and also access to a false heaven. And the false heaven is ruled by a false Jesus. And that is really why I wanted to talk about this. It's one of the only videos that I've ever seen that has, like, the guts to talk about this directly, and then to be able to say it with such excellent articulation. So I think it's worth it for you to watch the video yourself in order to learn more about that. I like that the video presenter mentions there is a very real Jesus Christ. So I'm going to talk in today's class, in my curriculum, a lot about Christ consciousness. People are like, Christ consciousness. Wait. Let me gesture with my drink over here. Christ consciousness. That's just new age claptrap. And if you really want to get saved and protected from demons, like, you're gonna have to bite the bullet, and you're gonna have to, humble yourself before Jesus Christ. You can't just be wishy-washy and just be Christ consciousness. You can tell I'm being very facetious here. Please also do not take insult in what I'm sharing. Please don't be insulted or feel that I'm condescending to Christians or Christianity in any way. I actually have always had a great deal of respect and love for anyone who is trying to better themselves, anyone who has a deeply held spiritual belief, anyone who is trying to align with greater values. And the best parts of what the New Testament is, the best parts of what the church-based Christianity is about, is caring for others, being more accountable in your life, what we would call transpersonal psychology, when you become a better person through examining yourself, and that this is often done in a rapport, in what is felt to be a direct relationship or conversational or prayerful relationship with Jesus. There was a great teacher 2,000 years ago. His spirit is an amazing person. Yes, you can connect with that spirit. It is different than the overarching Christ consciousness, which I will talk about here today. There's a great value and beauty in connecting with that master teacher and in connecting with their teachings. You're also aware that that teacher and their teachings in many ways has been misappropriated or subverted, taken, fragmented, and then weaponized against you, the very people that it is meant to protect and uplift. And so someone left an interesting comment in my videos. And also I wanted to say just a generalized thank you to everyone who writes comments in my YouTube over here. Get the best comments. think maybe only like once a year is something that is inappropriate or unpleasant that I have to delete. I'm not jinxing it by saying this. I have the most thoughtful and amazing people commenting there. And so one person was sharing about a new comprehension of Gandhi and a new comprehension and contextualization of nonviolence, because I was speaking about this in an earlier class video, the sense of Gandhi exemplifying nonviolence, but nonviolence not always being the appropriate response, because if you are nonviolent, let's say to the British Empire has certain values and ideals that are synonymous with respect of nonviolence ideals. And then there are some empires or organisms where if you're like, I'm nonviolent, and you lay down or stand in front of their tanks, they're like, thank you for not fighting back. You're an excellent target and I will easily kill you now. So not every organization or culture respects nonviolence. So it's not always the correct tool to talk with someone. So, but they were talking about a deeper read on who Gandhi is and was, and the ways in which his approach to nonviolence was taken and used and weaponized against the very suppressed and oppressed population that he ostensibly was trying to uplift in the use of nonviolence. So this is deep stuff. You have to be super duper duper smart, because there's so many tricks and there's so many layers. Hold on a moment. It's even more difficult than like trying to read the video box, you know. Well, you guys don't know this anymore. Well, maybe some of you do. Like if you remember Blockbuster Video, you go to the video store to figure out what you're going to watch, and there's the box, and you look at the box and it says like a fun, lighthearted, romantic comedy, a romp. And then you watch it and it's like a horrible psychological thriller with tons of murder and blood. You're like, this is not what the box said. And I think that you have to be even smarter in assessing all these things that are in our present reality, because there are false advertising, inversions, manipulation, partial truths, things that are alluded to but never overtly stated, that then you embroider into existence. So that's basically what these astral thought forms like to do. They like to press your mental buttons, stimulate you lightly, but without direct specifics, and then have you embroider the specifics with your creative life force energy. And they do this in life, in daily waking consciousness, and they also do this a lot about in dreaming right now. And I've experienced that a lot over the past 2 years as well. I don't know if I've had any genuinely self-arising nighttime dreams over the past 2 years. I think they've almost all been 100%. What did I write on that whiteboard? Influenced. That there's like a stimulation of certain centers in the brain through frequency, and then imagery and feeling states arise inside of me, the experiencer, and then I'm expected to embroider them together into a narrative structure that serves the one who is stimulating me. So of course, it's the greatest. We're talking about like an enormous challenge, labyrinth in terms of spiritual attainment and getting to freedom. What I try to do as one who is attaining and, you know, moving towards freedom and maintaining freedom, when I notice all of this is happening and I'm often lucid in these dreams, I'm like, oh, this thing wants me to do this, but I'm going to make something else happen. Like in one dream, I was presented with a piano that, you know, you press the buttons, but it doesn't work properly. And I was like, I'm going to play it anyway. And I played an awesome song on the piano that didn't work. But of course, what was supposed to happen is I was supposed to go into self-doubt and shame and concern and spiral downward and think I'm not a good musician or something like that. It's 100% an implant. So that's just an example of what the stimulation, and also I want to say demons. You know, I avoid this word because I say like it's religiously charged and it's this and it's that, and we'll call them putis and we'll call them negative thought entities, but they are very, very much demons. But once I bring up the word demons, then we go into Judeo-Christianity, then we go into theology, and then you must also comprehend that organized Christian religion and the theology of organized Christianity totally arises from the world of demons, the world of negative, non-embodied never alives, those guys are the ones that have been writing this religion. But of course, there have been amazing spiritual figures that have come here in this world to uplift us and bring us information and bring us towards freedom. So master teachers do exist, but then the way that the theology was created about Christianity, which much of it, again, I'm not here to pee and poop all over your religion, but much of it is self-conflictory. Things that like, this is a assertion, but then here's another assertion, and these two things don't match. And there are things that keep people locked in struggles and locked in inner battles. Like, if God is good, how can this thing happen? Why did this have to happen? How did this have to happen? And then convoluted backbends that are done largely in essay form of people who, you know, are trying to say like, well, this is what's really going on. And this is what's really going on. What's really going on is it's an intentionally flawed system. The way that these religions were created by never lives, by demons, has been intentionally flawed, which is why I have often stayed away from organized religion. But more recently, I have looked into the New Testament, and I've looked into the value of attending a church, again, not out of some whatever like hypocrisy or throwing my old values out the window, but because there is something that is very powerful from being together with many others who are also, I don't even know if the word is worship, because I enjoy the way that the Alchemist video about false light talks about that sector of the false astral realm as being placed heavily in worship. Like when you talk about the hierarchy that is there is a sense of there's somebody at the top of the hierarchy and you're supposed to worship that person. And then also, so that is also what the sense of in church-based Christianity, the sense of worshiping Jesus Christ, and that it is seen as a positive to quote unquote humble yourself or diminish yourself in deprioritizing your own needs or desires so that something, listening to something that is larger. Yeah, interesting. Rainbow Body says worship, but then also W-A-R, worship. And I think that that's very apt. I think that that's an incredibly, insightful thing for you to say. Because, and again, I hope that that just really shows very clearly, I'm not here to criticize others on their spiritual journey, but to foster a larger discussion and encourage everyone towards freedom. If you are worshiping, or if you are what people say, like humble themselves before Jesus Christ, or any of those things, are born again, totally love and respect you. And I hope that you also love and respect me, as I'm a part of this larger conversation that is going on here. But there is another level of Christianity that is about having a personal relationship with Jesus, with the Christ, with having that feeling of that thought form, persona, or entity positively being inside of you and positively guiding your life, but that it is always meant to be in partnership and consensual. And that will actually dovetail nicely into, I will get into my curriculum, which is about the indigo chakra and the violet chakra, and that these two things are completely complementary and not in a power struggle, but that you're coming out of this world of dualism, which is at this level, and ego, which is at this level, and spiritual ego, which is also at this level. When I get into my teachings, I'll tell you all about the pitfalls of getting to the level of Christ indigo chakra, but not yet activating this crown chakra up here. It's not meant to be a competition or a power struggle about who is in charge. But at the lower levels, this is a power struggle about who's in charge. Who is in, and I'm being facetious now, who's in charge of your life? Like, you're going to have to humble yourself and like stop trying to be in charge of your own life and let something else take over. Let something else take over. We've got a lot of demons who are never embodied beings who are creating a theology that says, let something else take over. That's dangerous stuff, because the only thing that you want to take over is your own higher self, highest self, God connection, including Christ who lived here 2,000 years ago in that form. But then there are all these other facets of Christ, and having that live through you, and that's not even the end of the journey, that becoming at this level of attainment is not the end of the journey. But rewind, because let me just finish and then wrap up on the sense of false light. The conflicted, convoluted theology that also creates a labyrinth of self-conflict, where it's like, you want to go to heaven, but in order to go to heaven, you have to do all these things that are not necessarily in alignment with spiritual sovereignty. That's what I loved about that video. I loved that the speaker unabashedly called out false Jesus Christ And so there is a very real Jesus Christ, but then there is a false Jesus Christ. There are convolutions and self-conflicts about the theology, belief system, or what you must embrace or espouse. And what I experienced, and now I'll just get into like, here's stuff that's not in the other person's video. This is stuff that's in my life. What I experienced was the frequency horror that has been perpetrated in our planet over the past 2 years. I would say that that false light, deceptive realm, astral area, far from being a peripheral bad neighborhood, became like the center of everything that I'm like, I'm just trying to drive to the good neighborhood known as personal and planetary ascension, but it's like, I'm going to be directly in front of you. I'll take a different road. I'm still going to be directly in front of you. I'm still going to be directly in front of you. Like habit, if I bicycle, still doing it. As a pedestrian, still doing it. So you understand, not by accident. This is not one of those things where it's like, like you took a wrong turn and ended up on the wrong side of the tracks. Now you're in this bad neighborhood. No, 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 because that's not how traps work. Traps or obstacles. This as an obstacle is like, oh, you are a spiritual aspirant. I see, first of all, that you've transcended this level of reality. I'm going to unfairly suck you back in. And then also, I'm going to stand in front of every single exit or every single direction that you can possibly go in so that you will have to respond to me. But again, I take issue with the presumption or contextualization of this experience as being a rite of passage, because that's kind of like making an excuse about what is happening on this whole entire planet. Is this whole entire planet being subjected to a rite of passage? I actually don't think so. I actually don't think that anything that is going on here in terms of the frequency that has been perpetrated against all of you, I don't think that that frequency of lies that has been beamed basically directly into your pineal gland, as opposed to the true light of Christ beaming into your pineal gland, I don't think that that's been a necessary rite of passage at all. Because if you call it a rite of passage that you have to go through in order for you to get to your levels of attainment or to prove your goodness to God in some way, then it has the presumption that God is sadistic. Like God is like, I'm going to make you do some really horrible and painful things, and you're going to have to do it. And then you're going to get past it and be like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, God. Like, I kiss your butt. Thank you for doing harmful things and causing me a great deal of suffering, which again, like, no offense to people who are Christians, but there's also a lot of fraught misuse of the sense of atonement sacrifice, Jesus Christ as atonement sacrifice, as justification for sadistic God. My face betrays my, or presents my disbelief at that. No, God is completely loving and completely compassionate and is not sadistic and doesn't make you jump through hoops or do back bends to prove your worth, to be able to get into heaven or be with God or remember your God self. That's big. Just remember that from me. God is not sadistic, meaning wanting to cause pain to you. God is not requiring of your proof that you are somehow committed enough, loving enough that you have to prove that you're enough to be with God. All of that relates to the genetic degradation that got implanted in humans when humans, it's called the fall, but I joke about it like that guy didn't suicide. He didn't fall, he was pushed. Humanity, you didn't fall, you were pushed. So there was a degradation in your genetic code that is not a fall from grace, but is a suppression of who you are. And then there's an innate sense of self-worth. Like, hey, why am I down here? And why am I a little mortal, stupid creature? And how come I'm not exalted and immortal? I must have done something wrong, because it resonates with the primary trauma that has been implanted inside of you. And that the real truth that I have to share with you is that you are worthy. So this relates to the sense of ascension and attainment. I'm going to get to your comment in a minute. Ascension and attainment and remembrance of you as God, you as your identity, this source that is a genius and so unbelievably loving, that emanated yourself into reality experience, into materiality, not to suffer. Again, flawed Christian theology being projected to perpetrate it against you. Although we love Jesus Christ or Yeshua and all that he gave in order to help try to uplift humanity and improve human history, but you are not here to suffer. You get it? Like the definition of your life is not here to suffer, or that you're somehow deserving of pain and suffering, or that you somehow have done something wrong to be down here. As many people really grapple with these inner feelings that come 100% from the negative astral realm, and populated by demons and putis, and never our lives, that hate that you are alive, that hate that you actually once were a part of God. In fact, I actually think a lot of the attainment or the reattainment or remembrance of God's self is throwing a lot of that crap out the window. Throw it out the window. All the stuff that says you're unworthy, all the stuff that says you better fix it up in some way. Like you're not good enough to be in heaven, fix yourself up in some way. And that's very, very different also than saying like you're in sorry, I'm just getting my drink over here because I'm on a marathon already. And I ate very salty kale chips before I started my class today. That you're on a level of inner refinement. That is apt. But inner refinement and focusing who you are and focusing the direction of your soul is really, really different than saying you're not good enough and you're unworthy and you better change on a basic foundation level before you're good enough to get into heaven. And I want to say get back into heaven, because I come from heaven. So that's why I'm able to transcend a lot of these puzzle tricks of the labyrinth of, false frequency and all these things that are going on. I'm like, I actually come from Christ, and I actually come from heaven, and I know that I'm good enough, and I know that I'm loved, and I know that I'm worthy, because that's where I backbended or lasagnaed into this world from. All right. But I know that a lot of you guys are more vulnerable, that you might be vulnerable to that trick that says, oh, you're down there on earth as a mortal, like drinking coffee and using toilet paper and being stupid and biological and suffering and dying because you're not good enough and you're a bad person and you're not good enough to be with the masters and you're not good enough to, be with the greats, and God thinks that you need to like completely revamp your personality before you're ready to be up there. And I'm like, no, you can tell it on my face. I'm like, no, that's not what is going on right now at all. You're totally innocent. And I speak now, of course, like, the people that are in my audience, embodied humans and very, very good, excellent people that are on your inner quest. You're totally innocent. You don't deserve to suffer. You don't deserve to be punished, which is another one of the things that I take issue with in terms of the theology of Christianity in the human realm of being alive. But the realm that is run by the non-alive beings has done something on this planet by creating that frequency, created a torture realm, different and more intense over the past 2 or 3 years than humans have ever had to experience before. And a lot of people feel that they are in a hell here right now, because that frequency and what it has done in many ways has cut humans off from a love tone, cut humans off from love connection with one another, with my dog is in the other room, loving animals, my trees are outside, loving trees. And I felt that. And I felt how devastating that was at other times. Like, of course, I have like reconnected, like I climbed back out and I reconnected through love. And you know what? Prayer is very real. Like other people prayed for me. This is why I believe organized religion and organized church-based Christianity can be powerful, because people pray for each other and those prayers are very real. So please understand, prayers are like a type of currency or valued emotional energy. And when you pray for someone else, you're absolutely uplifting them with your inner passion. That's so beautiful and so valuable. And prayers have nothing at all to do with being a part of a particular church. You don't have to pray in a particular way. You don't have to pray to a particular God. But then this becomes very fraught, because you're like, well, okay, like if I see someone is suffering, then I want to be like, wow, like I pray that something is going to get fixed here. But like, who am I praying to? Am I praying to false astral Jesus? Am I praying to something that is essentially an imposter? That's a mask. When you take off that mask, who is behind it? The answer is Satan or Lucifer, these, incredibly dark, evil presences that intentionally misappropriate the true face of Christ. So let's just talk for a moment here. And I know like this is a lot of religious stuff, and I'm not a very religious mania focused person and haven't been, but the the guys who put up the frequency towers turned this into a whole religious themed experience here. And it's been something where the potentials in many people's expectation and belief system of the book of Revelation are being actualized by your creative life force energy in the same way that prayer can uplift someone, feeling states and passions and beliefs, conscious or unconscious, witting or unwitting, uphold realities and feed realities. So the frequency got turned on. It's been on very hot for like about 3 years, maybe even 4 years. And it's been taking people who are not even fully invested in a biblical literalism, but only lightly informed, moderately informed about what the book of Revelations is, which is basically the eschaton, or the end of everything, and the implication that everything must end in order for the next chapter to begin, hoping that you will manifest that reality through the harvesting of your, and then misapplication, misappropriation of your own emotional energy states. And that's not something that I think is desirable or inevitable. I think that that is actually something to be avoided, because the book of Revelation talks about like an enormous amount of violence. But then what people like about the book of Revelation is the sense of triumph that comes after the final showdown between good and evil. But so blah, blah, blah. False hell and false heaven are what are offered by the frequency towers, not real hell. So right now, let me just affirm this to anyone who is watching. I get contacted by a lot of targeted individuals as a result of the things that I've been through and the videos that I've made. Some people who are really, really under this frequency torture feel like they are in hell. And it is a very real feeling, but and then also some people of various different belief systems have simply defined this world here where we find ourselves, biological bodysuit, drinking some coffee, I'm sitting on my chair, as hell. This is not hell. This is earth, or a physicality realm. And so this is what the insights that I was having at 4:30 this morning, that I can finally get into the meat and potatoes, and thank you for being with me as I kind of stumble my way through of trying to articulate this. In the same way that in World War II, there was an earthly experience that happened. A lot of bad things happened. There was a lot of violence. There was a lot of degradation. There were a lot of things that happened in Europe specifically, is what I'm talking about, that made it feel like people were in hell. Hell on earth, violence, loss of family members, complete disrespect for human life and genocide. But that's not hell. That's not hell. That's alive people suffering and being tortured. That is not synonymous with the membrane of death over here, which is what we would actually define as hell. All right. And when I talk about the economy of hell, that's the energy siphoning to the membrane of death. You guys are all alive. You are alive. You're in an alive place. And so if you are in an alive place, but let's say your planet's been invaded, spoiler alert, the planet's been invaded, and a lot of bad stuff is happening here on an even larger magnitude, an even more distressing magnitude than what happened in World War II in Europe. But I mean, then you could actually see the horrors that were going on. Here, it is largely ephemeral. The frequency warfare, psychotronic warfare, and the effects that it's having on people's mind, the suffering that's creating on them, the harm that it's creating to their physicality. That stuff is largely not visible, even though there's a lot of it happening and it is under acknowledged at the moment. But that doesn't mean you're in hell. You are in an alive world that could be a beautiful world that has the potential to be an amazing, whatever, cultivated, beautiful garden experience, but instead is being turned into a very unpleasant experience. Similarly, so like if people are really suffering and struggling under frequency psychotronic warfare, it is somehow more accessible to believe, oh, like I must have died and I must be in hell at this moment, than it is like if you're eating some wonderful pastry and you're like, this pastry is so amazing, I must be in heaven. You don't actually think you're in heaven. You just think, I am experiencing extreme amounts of pleasure through this pastry or through this orgasm or through whatever positive thing you're happening. But you don't actually mistake and think like, I think I'm actually living in heaven where everything feels so great, even though I'm finally getting to the point, 5D, this ladder of operancy. So the false light video speaks about this hierarchy system that is a ladder that goes to nowhere in the New Age world. And this is something that I feel has been cherry picked from my work, talking about 3D versus 4D versus 5D, taking those things that I talk about, totally miscontextualizing them, and then weaponizing them against humans, presenting it as a ladder of psychic experience where people in the New Age talk about this a lot, like, oh, you're so 3D. Yeah, and now the earth is 4D, or maybe we're going to get into 5D. And all of that has to do with elevator up and elevator down, because this invasion to our planet has not only been about frequency, it has also been about nanopathogens that enter into the body through various different routes, some of which are from the subcutaneous injections that happen, and then some of which are, through inhaled aerosols and other contaminations of food, water, and atmosphere. All of those things create access by these never alives to your biological architecture, your biochemistry. They're hacking your biochemistry. And those old-fashioned elevators where there's like an elevator man who makes the elevator up, push the elevator thing up, the plunger goes up, then elevator down, elevator up, elevator down. That is what humanity has been experiencing. That's what a lot of people in the New Age have been experiencing. Artificial manipulation of their biochemistry to at times feel elevated and think, I'm ascending, everything is great, I must be going to heaven. And at other times, or other people, so sometimes the same person experiences both ups and downs. Sometimes certain groups, these are the up group, they will be elevated, they get the positive responses. And then these are the down group. These are the targeted individuals who will be made to feel like they are living in hell 100% due to manipulation of frequency and biochemistry. So I'm very, very vocal about false ascension, 3D, 5D paradigm, and about using this language effectively. What is the third dimension? What's the fourth dimension? What's the fifth dimension? The third dimension is, of course, a box of physicality, and we exist in that, but we also exist in a line of boxes known as a timeline. The timeline is the fourth dimension. We're moving through time, and you've been in the fourth dimension, unwittingly experiencing time for your whole entire life. And the fifth dimension is the bakery where the dough of reality is mixed. It is a place of waveform potentials. So I've been very, very clear on this the whole entire ordeal. 5D is supposedly this elevated elevator up experience that is, I'm saying, due to biohacking, but is not a true ascension experience. In contrast with the language that I use, 5D, the fifth dimension, is a waveform presence, a place where things aren't even things yet. Like, this isn't even a glass of water yet. It's the potential for a glass of water. It's the dough of reality that has not yet been baked into experience. And you are in that level of reality. You have a tendril of attention and many aspects of your non-physical self that are already operational in that world of pure waveforms and even beyond, but you have just not had control over your senses and over your limbs and apertures there. It's your light body, and you've been a baby, and you haven't known, you're flailing around, don't know what's going on. So this is, largely the vulnerability of ignorance, but very, very big there. The hierarchy of the military as we know it in this realm of the five senses mirrors and reflects the value system and structure of the hierarchy that's at this lower astral, extremely flawed false light realm, but that it's not the same. Like, you have your contract working for a particular organization or agency in life, and then dying, and then going to the afterlife realm, where you will then be like, oh, like whatever, you were a private, a sergeant, a corporal, and then you will go on to the into the realm of afterlife, and you will continue to be a private, a sergeant, a corporal in a larger army there. But there is definitely a false spiritual hierarchy there that requires your constant efforting And that's also what I've experienced over the past several years. It's this sense of like always, it's basically satanic energy harvesting. You're always going to have to like focus or try or effort or do something, which is the antithesis of what ascension is. So the things that I have to share with you, you're worthy of being God, you are God, you're worthy of being with God, you didn't fall, you were pushed, and that it actually shouldn't take any effort to ascend. That's actually really big. And you can sense I'm smiling, but it's with a great deal of irony over the past 3 years. Like when we had blips on the radar, I'm like, oh, like this is what ascension is really supposed to feel like. Because I actually know, because I actually did it a long time ago. So I am, it's like saying like, I know what these pastries are supposed to taste like. Like this is whatever. This guy's making pastries out of sawdust. That's not what it's really supposed to taste like at all. But when you ascend, it's not, there's no way to hack the system. There's no way to game the system. There's no way to effort. It's not like I'm going to swim up, like go up higher. Like it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way because in a perfect cosmic law system, you can't game or hack the system, and you can't get someplace beyond your attainment or bribe your way into heaven or do this or that to try to get higher than you actually are. So this is 100% behavioral control. So what I've experienced in my body on the physicality planet known as Earth is frequency manipulation context that contains both a false hell, that is not the true hell, but is a definite suffering of those who are alive, contrasted with a false heaven. And the false heaven is as much a peril and as much a imprisonment system as the false hell. A lot of people are like, I'm ascending. This is so great. Everything is amazing. I'm in 5D and it feels amazing. And you can be in a prison of blissfulness. It is a very blissful prison, but it is not a place of empowerment. So true Christ consciousness is a state of total empowerment and a state of total freedom. Again, this is where I come from. Not in like, you're going to go in a little tiny kiddie pool that's called false heaven and you're going to stay there swimming in circles. That's what you do to like capture dolphins and whales, put them in at SeaWorld, and then they swim in circles in their little enclosure. That's what is being offered as false heaven to you. But real heaven is, I'm pointing out my window, the sun and the stars, and being a beam of light or an impulse in the mind of God that is going between all of these different nodes of light that are all of these different stars. It's endless, frictionless bliss, perpetual motion, and again, total freedom. Not swimming around in circles in a tiny enclosure, literal freedom. And that anything that impedes that state of freedom is in affront or a endanger, imperillment of what Christ consciousness is, what real heaven is, which is why I'm here as Aurora, because when you see like there's a group of people or even one individual that is being held away from freedom or levels that are not free, that imperils the entire system of freedom. You can't have freedom, which is a totality state where all this light and consciousness may move wherever it wants to go, and have little areas where consciousness cannot go wherever it wants to go because of the carnival claw that yoinks your soul and puts it somewhere else, or because of assault on your pineal gland, that is the frequency invasion that you presently live under, or any of these other things that I've been talking about. Let me go to these beautiful questions and comments, and then I will actually get to my curriculum, because I just really thank you so much for your patience in allowing me to articulate all of that on, I have a lot more thoughts. It'll come out as part of part 2, but I want to get to my curriculum. So Charlie B, and thank you for being here. And also, so Charlie B is in the chat room, and I think commented upon that video that was about the trickster. So thank you for helping me to find this other video and for taking the time to watch this one that's about false light. Charlie B says, your description of these ever-imposed barriers causing pain is exactly how one performs trauma-based mind control, personality programming. Excellent point. So our governments military and intelligence agencies of the physical embodied world use these systems of victimization known as trauma-based mind control. Yes, Trish says MK Ultra. That is exactly what it is. They have scientifically fine-tuned these different ways of being able to behaviorally control people. All of what they do is an imprint or tip of the iceberg of what is done in this lower astral realm. And in the lower astral realm, or the realm of false light, they also do a lot with religion as behavioral control. So I very much am about religion as tool for spiritual attainment, as I see all of you as being aspirants who aspire to greater levels of spiritual wisdom, connectivity, empowerment, and I'll get into that in the curriculum. Christ as empowerment tool, Christ as guide, Christ as teacher, and the Christian church is 100% behavioral control mechanism. If you don't do this, then you will not get into heaven and you will suffer and burn in hell. And that is pretty much what these never alives have been doing in our world for a couple of years now. They're like, basically, I'm going to poke you with the frequency stick and we're going to make it hurt a lot. And if you do the right thing, I will stop poking you with the frequency stick and it's going to feel so good when I stop. And do the right thing can mean pray to a particular God or pray in a particular way to a particular God, which is also such a travesty because that's nothing of what prayer is supposed to be. Prayer is supposed to be a spontaneous response in compassion because you care about other people or other things that appear to be out of your control. You're like, wow, like a train derailed and spewed a bunch of chemicals somewhere. I can't do anything about it, but I believe in a larger intelligence, a larger divine being that can do something about it. I'm going to do intercessional prayer where I say, hey, is somebody up there? There's some bad stuff going on down here. Please do something about it. Spiritual sovereignty is not antithetical to true God or to true Christ. It is really the coming into empowerment of your own mind state of being able to say, the train is derailed, chemicals are poisoning waterways. What can I do with my capacitation, with my imagination, envisionment, spiritual connection? So it's very, very different than saying like, you have to humble yourself and say that you're nothing and externalize your power, outsource your power, and then say to the thing that you have outsourced your power to, will you please fix this thing that I see is going wrong around here? In fact, I would say that's the entirety of everything that has happened since the end of Atlantis, because we came from a time of huge empowerment and being immortals. And if there was an issue with reality that was out of balance, we absolutely fixed it. I wanted to say affected it. We absolutely affected it. We affected it and we fixed it. And that's also where I come from. And all of that is not an affront or an insult to God. The idea of God being like, who do you think you are? Like, stop trying to fix things and do stuff. Simply pray to me. I will fix things for you. Like I'm being lighthearted and facetious, not mean or condescending. But that's not what God is like at all. But there are aspects that come up from this religious traumatization of people feeling like it is inappropriate for them to claim their own power to be able to positively affect reality and spiritual attainment and spiritual sovereignty. And the spoiler alert end of the story where you become the son, become God, become empowered at that level has everything to do with reclaiming or re-embodying that position of empowerment to be able to do something about your creation. So you turn from being not a hapless victim, but a hapless experiencer where you're like, don't blame me. Like, I just work here. Like, I know the world is screwed up. I just work here. I'm doing the best I can to, I am like co-creating this world to, I have inner capacities that can actually fix, heal, realign, and rebalance and redesign a lot of what is going on in the world. And all of that is hugely powerful. So the part that is tempting about Book of Revelations is the part that's not tempting about Book of Revelations, lots and lots of blood. That's not very tempting. But the part, on the other hand, that is quite tempting is the sense of somebody's going to fix it. Somebody's finally going to hear the Cosmic Complaints Department, read all of the angry letters that I've been writing up there about this is not part of the brochure. It's finally going to come down here and fix it. But in the truthfulness of what I share, beyond all lightheartedness and comedy, what I really think is going to happen is the awakening within each one of us that has this potential of Christ consciousness. And that's not just a watery new age, wimpiness to be like, everybody's Christ consciousness. And no, it's actually like an incredibly amazing event that is happening and that is ongoing, where you re-attain that higher faculty, and in doing so become capable and become a spiritual master. And so I don't see any of the events of the past 3 years as being the audition for that you have to go through to be able to become Christ or become an ascended master or anything like that. I see it all as just like total poop. Like, you don't have to walk through total poop to be able to be an ascended master and be God and be Christ. No, that is not the audition. And that's somewhat of just a way of bringing order to something that would otherwise seem just completely disappointing and arbitrary. Pedro's comment says, I never was good at praying, but since I learned of the Merkaba and the FRL, I put those on everyone and everything. I think they need it. I guess that is my way of praying. Pedro, thank you for sharing that authentically. I truly love and celebrate you. I think that that is the most beautiful thing, because Flying Rainbow Lasagna and the Merkaba, these are empowerment tools. It is like saying, instead of, again, outsourcing one's power, saying, well, we know something is going wrong around here. Like, I just work here. I'm going to talk to the supervisor. Like, I won't make any promises, but I'll talk to the supervisor and see if they can do something about it. Instead of that, it is like the barista or the person who usually just pours the coffee, and the customer is saying, like, there's something going on here, being like, something, let me really fix that. The coffee machine is broken, or the milk really is spoiled. Like, instead of going to the supervisor, really doing something. And I love that. And I love that approach. And I celebrate it, I applaud it. And I also think and feel that true divinity will similarly, and does, celebrate your efforts at self-empowerment. None of that is an insult to God. Like, if you were the supervisor in the coffee shop and you were like, did you fix this thing with the broken refrigerator that was making the milk go spoiled? And you were like, yeah, I fixed that. Do you think the supervisor would be like, I am very mad and disappointed. Like, don't you know, I don't want you to do that? Be like, no, you'd be like, wow, thank you for going above and beyond even the description of your responsibilities here at the coffee shop and fixing that so that customers don't get poisoned. Thank you very much. You did a good job. And possibly deserve a raise, maybe even a managerial position. I think I need to get into my curriculum now, but this isn't the end of the conversation. I'm going to get back to it. But guys, if you're open to it, watch that video, and I'm interested to hear your comments and questions back. Again, I speak about all of this with the utmost of respect and delight in the variety of worship and the variety of perspectives that people have, both as Jews, Christians, many different value systems. And of course, I didn't go into like the entire panoply, Buddhists and Hindus and everybody out there. I think that there's a way to be able to have a beautiful conversation about this. I had one comment that came onto one of my other videos of just a completely non-religious topic that was just, a bit accusatory, and I just didn't even want to open that can of worms or respond with that person. But I'm very open to continued beautiful, respectful communication about these different things. And I hope that there's just a ton of compassion and love coming from every single direction in being able to talk about and integrate whatever's your personal path to spiritual attainment with what other people are attaining as well. But I tell you about these things because I don't want you to fall into ego traps that are based in technology. This goes deep. This isn't even about, the Torah or the New Testament. This is about the erecting of frequency towers that have profoundly changed not only your cell-to-cell communication and metabolism and everything, the way that your mind and your neurons work and your cognition and your perception, they've like fried your pineal gland. This has been an assault on Christ in this planet right now. Okay, so wait. what a perfect page break, because look who decided to get up out of there. Wait. Let me move aside so that you can see. No, she's over here. She's over here. Oh, there, somebody, the true teacher has arrived, and she got out of her dog bed. It's a very, very cold day. She's just been in there keeping nice and warm. So Cheeky, I'm so happy that you made it to class. Let's get going. Let's get going. I will hug her while I talk. So this one is energetic anatomy and the sun. First, let me show you a bunch of pictures. This is one picture. I use it in class all the time. It is a scratchboard type of etching, and I'm bringing it up because this is what we're talking about today. The intersection of the indigo chakra or energy center, which is AKA your Christ center or the aperture through which you perceive non-optical light. That is where the eyeball through which you eat non-optical light. Guys, Aurora is confusing me. What is non-optical light? That is equivalent to information. And it is equivalent to time and timelines and possibilities and probabilities. So you have a tendril of attention. This is the lesson where I talk about your tendril of attention. It reaches out like a finger, but you could also think of it as a vortex or a piece of energy. Anything that you are focusing on with your attention, paying attention to, you are attenuating to. This comes from Greek, attenuos, meaning to reach out, like the way that a finger reaches out. So if I ask you to attenuate to that purple unicorn that everybody just imagined that was part of the astral realm, you would be touching on that slightly. The higher faculties involves not just the indigo or Christ chakra. I should use blue in order to not be confusing to you here. Not just this indigo or blue chakra, but your higher faculties also includes your crown. And that is that chakra that is oriented in that way. So wait, hold on a second, because you can see it over here. So I've got this drawing. Use a better color. This area over here is somewhat more simplified, and I think you can see it extremely well. So this part of your physical anatomy is located at the top of your spine, where your skull kind of sits on your spine and pivots. It is located at the direct center of your brain, kind of up above your ears and coming inward through the center of your forehead. So it is not just on the surface of your forehead here. That would be where the tendril emerges from, but it's in the deep interior of your brain. So in the deep interior of your brain, you have a gland structure that is known as your pineal gland, or some people call it pineal, but they're both the same thing, shaped like a pine cone. I should get a pine cone from outside, because pine cones have these amazing polygonal structures. As the leaves unfurl, they have these amazing repetitive structures. That's exactly what your pineal gland in the non-physical realm of pure energy is shaped like. In the realm of physicality, your pineal gland is shaped like, it's like, you know, small, like whatever the size of a grape. It is shaped like a lensless eye. So your physical eyes have a lens at the front. Optical light is able to enter inward through that lens, through your cornea and your pupil, and then get to the retina. If this is your eyeball, here's the retina, like photosensitive paper that is on the back of your eye. The pineal gland is very similar to your physical eye, but it doesn't have any opening to allow in optical light, because it does not eat optical light, but it does eat light that is pure information. The pineal gland is synonymous with, but not interchangeable with, the energy field that it produces. So in life, as you are alive, as you are creating and generating all these amazing force fields around you, your pineal gland emits energy. It's a little tiny gland that emits a giant force field of energy. That's what those paintings and pictures are all about. That energy field has several different functions. On the one level, it's like sunblock, positive sunblock, I should say a shield. And also on a spiritual level, Christ is a shield. It is a rotating aspect of time. All of this is made out of the medium of time, moving and whirling and twirling and swirling amidst itself. That is a lens. Let me read, wait. So too many things to try to rewind. I will find it in the notes later. This is a lens. The lens is known as your anthropocentric lens, meaning human-centered. It is shaped like a human because you are a human. So this lens is the interpretive system through which you look at the fifth dimensional and higher world of pure waveforms and interpret those waveforms, which are non-optical light, into making sense and making a story of the world around you. That lens, when it is well formed and moving at optimum speeds, so it swirls around like this, but then it also moves around your head like this, and that's not the end of the story. There's much, much more. When it is at optimum levels, it blocks out false light. And so like once you get to these levels of higher attainment, the frequency soup and the frequency generators and things that are here on the planet would not disturb you. But they very intentionally erected them right as you're getting to that point of crucial inner development, and that it is a way of preventing spiritual attainment, because like it's a disturbance to allow in assaults on the pineal gland. And I say assaults, we're talking about stimulation via false light. So the eyeball that is at the center of your brain receives information via stimulation. Some of it is through neural stimulation. Some of it is through frequency stimulation. Frequency moves through flesh, all right? And it goes directly into the center of your brain. So they set up a world of lies all around you. It's horrible. And beamed radiation lies into your pineal gland, which is a super sensitive organ, for pretty much the past 3 years. Different than even the level of lies and delusion that have been beamed into humanity's pineal glands and mind for millennia and at other times in human development. Very, very, very difficult, perilous time, because this area of your anatomy is meant to be your master teacher. So it doesn't work on its own. Pineal gland and Christ chakra work in conjunction with your violet chakra, which is your crown that comes directly out from the top of your head and is biologically, anatomically, the same place where the baby's fontanelle is located. Baby's fontanelle is the place where the skull plates have not yet knit together upon birth. It takes about a year for the skull plates to fully fuse together and close up that hole, because when you are being born, your head is squashed. Really, really, really squashed. So all of those skull plates have to have a lot of space that they can move. It also represents an openness to this higher, more oceanic consciousness, which is why children under 1 are so incredibly powerful, amazing, special, and wonderful to be around. They maintain their connection to the divine, have not yet become fully verbal, have not yet fully disengaged into individuality, and definitely haven't set up an ego structure yet. They don't have all of those boundaries. They're still very, very much connected to God, the source, divine intelligence, highest intelligence, organizational principle. You're like, I'm holding this little baby in diapers, but it's somehow smarter than me? Yes, in many ways, yes. It is connected to divine intelligence, although it's in diapers, can't control some aspects of its body, can barely, walk and talk. That little baby has an amazing amount of spiritual connectedness. Then, of course, when you go through human development, your skull plates fuse together. You develop a sense of self, a sense of individuation. My name is Melissa or Charlie or Marie. I'm like Magic Mirror here, talking about, that was an old children's show. Everybody who's here in class with us, Pedro, you individuate and you learn your name. You're like you're sitting in your crib, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you hear the word like Pedro and you're like, that's me. They're talking about me, like you have a light bulb moment. And when you do that, that's a necessary level of personal development. It's called ego implantation. That is appropriate and good because you're supposed to be individuated. But what you're supposed to do as an ascending master, in the process of becoming an ascended master, you're supposed to hone the ego. So egos grow and develop. And they're supposed to grow and develop in the right way, the way, like, vine grows on a trellis. And you train it and grows on the right way, and it's formed in the right way. That is in conjunction with cosmic law and represents values of divine intelligence, divine willpower, very, very different than when I talk about the peripheral selves, where the ego is malformed and misshaped, and it doesn't represent your truest nature or the personality characteristics that are your truest nature. How do I know what my truest nature is? Is my favorite color purple? Is my favorite color red? Is it my truest nature, this? Is my truest nature that? The answer is your truest nature and the recipe of personality characteristics that define your true ego are those that make you live for forever and not die. The recipe of you is the song of life. Song of life, and you do not die when you play that song. And that means that you think the right way, think of yourself in the right way, personality characteristics, behavioral tendencies, and every other aspect of the calculation of your being is shaped correctly to not die. And for anyone who has dead loved ones, there's nothing wrong with your loved ones who died. They simply were shaped the wrong way, and they are on their journey of being refined even and focused even more until they achieve exactly the right song so that they will not have to die again. So they are on a different level of reality, continually being refined. You will coincide with them again as parallel lines meet at infinity, but they might look a little different, and you might look different from what they remembered of you as well. And it is inevitable for our consciousnesses to meet again. The action of the crown and the action of the brow, Christ and the crown here. This is similar to a marriage partnership, but I'm smiling and laughing because every time I do this teaching and I refer to my notes and the things that I wrote 10 years ago, I'm like, back then when I wrote this stuff, I was a little bit innocent, didn't quite know that much about human relationships. And I didn't know how much, if I use the word marriage partnership, it is so fraught because a lot of human marriages and power dynamics, marriages and relationships are about power dynamics. Who's in charge? Who's more powerful? Like, I'm the husband. I say, like, we're gonna, we're gonna go on vacation to Italy. And I'm the wife, and I say, no, we're going to go on vacation to Alaska, Italy, no, Alaska, no, Italy, no, Alaska. And we're fighting in the relationship now. And for any of you who are married or in partnership, thank you for being here, Lucy. Lucy says, wish I could be here and there at the same time. Totally understand. Love received, love back to you, Lucy. Oh, very, very long-term student and participant and supporter of my work. But for those of you who are in partnership or in marriage, you laugh about these things because you're like, I know, you're like, I know what she's talking about. It's really true. Power struggles. A lot of what relationships are about power struggles. So please throw that all out the window, because the relationship of Christ brow chakra and violet crown chakra has nothing at all to do with power dynamic. It has nothing at all to do with aspects of yourself fighting for supremacy in the body. Like, who's going to drive this ship? Is it going to be me or is it going to be you? Who's going to be in charge? It's absolutely about mutualism, working together, and aspects of your anatomy that complement one another in exactly the same way that your heart and your lungs work together. Your lungs are like, I breathe stuff in. And your heart is like, I pump stuff around, pump, pump, pump. And you're like, I love doing my job. I love doing my job. Let's work together. That is exactly what the brow and the crown do. So this is big because there's been so much focus on Christ, Christianity, the religion, the man, Jesus, the man, Jesus, the religious figure, aspirations of attainment, wanting to become like Christ. but I have to tell you so many different things. When you get to the level of attainment that is here, that is not the end of the journey. That is like making it, if you're going to summit and go up Mount Everest or something like that, that is like making it to one of your base camps, but not all the way up the mountain. And that's very, very huge. So in utilizing your inner vision, your crystalline inner vision of Christ consciousness, when you are seeing on an anthropocentric level, meaning on the human-centered level, you are fallible. There are a lot of things that are part of your human interpretation system and that are coming through either language structure or culture or other aspects of interpretation system that is not empirical. Empirical means information that you can't argue with. It's closer to math. And that's everything that I paint. This is empirical information. There is no negotiation. There is no wiggle room. It's like saying 1 + 1 = 2. A 12-inch circle, a 6-inch circle fits 2 times within a 12-inch circle. Now I'm making you do math. I know. So this class is so hard. Don't worry, guys. It's okay. There's no negotiations. 2 6-inch circles fit within 1 12-inch circle. That is just the way it is. Very, very different than the interpretations, backbends, and negotiations that happen when you look at human behavior, when you look at things through the lens of interpreting things according to humans. If you were a rock shrimp, you would have a crustacean-shaped lens in front of your face. If you were a dog, you'd have a canine-shaped lens in front of your face, and your value system and your sense of right and wrong and all these different things would completely be shaped by your biological architecture and who you are in your body. But when you get to the level of the crown, you are getting and returning to unity consciousness, the pure abstraction of who you are as consciousness, separate from your definition of self when you're in a biological container. And that's very, very fair. The levels and interpretations of what you think, what is right or wrong behavior on a human level. Of course, there are truisms, things that are simply truthful across the board. But, you know, all of these like things that you should always and nevers, always do this, never do this. This is right, this is wrong. There are so many things that are in religion, like the 10 commandments or the 613 commandments of the original Jewish Torah that say, always do this, never do this. Don't put cheese on a hamburger. Like that's not allowed. That always do this, never do this. So the 613 commandments of the original Torah are a lot more exacting, a lot more hoops to have to jump over than the 10 commandments of the basic New Testament in Christianity. But they're still all external do's and don'ts about how to navigate the world. And there's sometimes when you should put cheese on a hamburger. If it's goat cheese and tomato and it's done exactly in the right way. I'm joking, of course. I'm a little hungry and being a little facetious and lighthearted. But there are some things that are non-negotiable, that when you see them on the abstract level, you simply know this is right and this is wrong. This should be done, this should never be done, or this is the way this should be done. And there's no negotiations and no wiggle room. So the action of the crown in your interpretation and building a picture of reality is to be like a needle in the compass. That, you know, how do you make an old-fashioned compass? Hey guys, let me go on another tangent for you. How do you make an old-fashioned compass? Get a thing of water, put a cork or something that floats upon it, a piece of cork, and then you must put a metal needle upon that cork. And the needle will turn according to magnetic north of the planet that you're on. The needle is analogous to this crown aspect of your consciousness. It is the sensitive part of your body that tells you where is God? Where is God? Like where is true north? Is God over here? Is God over here? And the answer is God is always shifting God's position. So the crown is always having to redefine and tell you where, is it over here? Is it over here? Is it over here? Is it over here? So in this analogy that I use, You raise your energy, raise your energy, raise your energy because, wait, let me show you one more picture that is relevant to this. You have to get enough gas in your car in order to make this go. So this is showing the coherence of your heart. I will use green in order to show this correctly. This, where I'm scribbling, is your green heart, and it creates this big, giant energy field that emanates outward from your heart that is shaped like a torus, that yellow sculpture that I hold up. And that energy field creates this firm plateau or foundation within which the wheels of both your indigo chakra, so here's the wheels of your indigo chakra kind of going inside of there, just like, you know, a car's tires running on the road, go inside of there. And then also, of course, your crown chakra fits balanced on top of the indigo chakra. So this is like acro yoga. You've got the heart, which is over here, and then you've got the indigo, which is over here, balancing on top of the heart, and then you've got your crown that is balanced on top of everything. So you've got like this guy's on top of this guy, and you've got like a little tiny chihuahua balanced on top of all of them. And this crown over here is that little tiny chihuahua. I'm being, again, facetious. You can also see that it's oriented very similar to the traditional halo that we know in Western art and theology, and that we associate with angelic, divinely ascended and oriented consciousnesses. The halo. Halo is for angels who are good. And that's, you know, that's where that comes from. The interplay of your crown and your brow has everything to do with your capacity to perceive time directly, navigate time that is already in existence, and also generate and co-create events and structures in reality. This is so big because this gets down to what I was just talking about in terms of prayerfulness. Like you can, and praying is good, and please pray for others, and please pray for me. Pray for the world. Pray for the world. It needs prayers. But this is when we are able to activate this and this beyond asking someone else, like I will ask my supervisor to fix this and, you know, make it right for you. You become empowered to be able to make things right yourself. These are levels of wisdom and attainment that are part of being a spiritual aspirant. So the first thing is cultivating an enormous amount of unconditional love. Unconditional love is a tone. My voice doesn't sound that good, but usually I say love tone, love tone. Love tone, love tone is a reciprocal giving and receiving. And we create that sound when we are in meditation. Basically, it's when you are giving and receiving equal amounts of time. Like God is giving you 1 minute and you're giving away, you're moving at 1 minute per minute. Like here is 1 unit of time and you are moving in conjunction with that 1 unit of time, not grasping for the future, not held back by the past, completely embedded with all of the focus of your awareness on this moment now. That is very special. And that's like learning how to brush your teeth. Like you're a little child, you're like, I brushed my teeth today, good job. And I still do it as an adult. Create and generate and cultivate unconditional love as a little baby aspiring to grow higher, and even as a master, you know, with many, many attainments. Brush your teeth every day, no matter what. Unconditional love is the gas that makes your car go. If you're trying to be able to see, hear with your higher faculties and through your inner vision, like, hey, Aurora, what's wrong? How come I can't see? It could be because maybe you don't have enough gas in your car. And I've said this also too, that you can have the fanciest car, beautiful, whatever, Mercedes, Benz, or Lamborghini, sitting in your driveway, out of gas. There's no gas to make it go. So you can have an amazing inner vision, inner eye. You can have an amazing set of higher faculties. If you don't have the gas in your car to make it go, you're not going to be seeing with these insights into higher dimensional reality. The peril is when you activate this eye of time before you activate this crown chakra. Seeing through here and interpreting information that comes through that aperture on a human anthropocentric level is dangerous because you can be mistaken. There's room for misinterpretation. When you get to this level, there is no room for misinterpretation. That's why there are no negotiations between, as there are between traditional husbands and wives, negotiating where you're going to go on your vacation. The crown will always define where the brow should look. So this is your tendril of attention. You can use it to attend to anything. Reaching out your tendril of attention, you can learn about anything. I can touch a tree across the road. I can touch my dog. I can touch one of you. I can touch a person who lived 25,000 years ago. There are a lot of options. So it's essential to be guided well. And that is what this crown does. If this is like your library card of the cosmos, it's definitely an attainment just to get a library card. It's like when you were a little child. Maybe you got a library card when you were a little child. Maybe you didn't. But if you did, you got that library card. Hold on. And then went to the library. And you're like, I'm so proud. I have my library card. I can make anything I want happen. I can get any book that I want. Looking around, there's so many books. You're a little child. You're like, wow, I'm totally intimidated and impressed. There's so many books here. Where do I start? Should I just pick a book randomly off of the shelf? Like, I can't even read yet. I don't even know how to interpret things. How do I choose a book? The answer is you need guidance from the librarian, because you definitely don't want to choose something that is beyond your reading level that you won't comprehend. Don't want to choose something that has inappropriate themes for your level of development. For example, if you are a child and have not even gone through puberty, you should not be reading about sexuality yet. It's not even on your radar. You don't even have that equipment functional yet. It's like, save that for the teenage years, all right? Or how about reading about death or genocide or some of these incredibly dark and distressing topics? That none of that should be the primer for how to learn how to read and sound out words. So what you have is the librarian. As a child, go into the library. There's all of these different books, some of which you can't even comprehend, some of which might, scare or disturb you. And the librarian, that's the crown, comes along and says, let me show you this little area over here. There's like a little tiny table, a nice little shelf full of books that are just right for your comprehension, and maybe even like a little beanbag chair or something like that that you can sit on while you read. It's the children's area of the library. And then you get your first book that says, See, Spot, Run, and it has simple words in it, and you even learn what a book is, all right? It's essential to have that guidance from the librarian telling you what to look at and what to learn, and then also in what order, because even See, Spot, Run, you should start at page 1. First, you should read the title and the author. Then you should go to the table of contents. Then you should go to page 1. And if you don't, what if you just randomly open the book to the middle and start to read something, don't even finish the sentence, and then go to the next page? Be like, something that's very fragmented, and you might get the wrong impression, even from a simple book. Because the simple book, when you start to awaken this area of literacy in being able to read energy directly, the book says, you are Christ. That's See, Spot, Run. Please, welcome to the Cosmic Library. Sit down in your beanbag chair. I will bring your first book. You open it up, and the very first thing it says is, you are Christ. And if you didn't go on to page 2 and you did what some people do, they're going to jump up out of their chair, run around, be like, I'm Christ, and maybe even like do a lot of things that would be considered megalomania, self-centered, maybe a little bit out of balance, maybe a little bit power abusing. You have to, wait. The librarian tells you, read page 2 before you do anything else, and you read page 2, and it says, and so is everyone else. And then page 3 tells you more about it. Page 4 tells you more about it. This is the education about yourself and awakening and return to God's self through direct perception of energy. And although I love and respect talking about people and their human earthly religions, this supersedes all of it. And in many ways, I think that is positive, because there are many wars that have been fought over human interpretations of religion, and many inquisitions that have been held where people have been horribly tortured and mutilated because they supposedly did not perceive or God or pray in the right way. And this supersedes all of that. You don't have any religious wars. You don't have any inquisitions. You simply have the empirical truth of knowing. So the empirical truth of knowing through the human lens is slightly different than through the canine lens. All right? Slightly different than through the crustacean lens, but they all do vector and coincide with that source or God or divine origin that is also the divine destination. P.S. Of course, dogs are divine. Of course, dogs go to heaven. Of course, rock shrimp are divine. Of course, I'm looking out my window. Blades of grass are divine. Yes, blades of grass are in the heavenly realm of pure ascended masters. Yes, blades of grass become ascended masters. Microbes and suns and stars, stellar, cosmic, celestial objects. In this way, the level of consciousness that is known as Christ, because if I say Christ consciousness, you're like, wishy-washy New Age. What if I say the level of consciousness that is known as Christ is not limited to humans, and it is not limited to earthlings, and it is not limited to those whom we would define as having similar biological architecture to our own. So Christ itself is a multifaceted, overarching, multidimensional meta persona. Meta meaning overarching. It is like a composite eye of a beautiful insect, like a bee or a butterfly, that has many, many, many bejeweled facets, facets of a crystal. And every single one of those facets is a viewpoint. And every single one of those viewpoints is the viewpoint of an organism. You are one of those viewpoints. That's what the child's primer says. You are one of those facets on the bejeweled mind of Christ. So is your dog. And so is the tree. And so is the microbe and the worm in the soil. It's really, 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 really big, deep stuff there. Let me talk a little bit, going over my notes here. Okay. Your pineal gland is the glandular biophysical representation of the energetic anatomy that is the meeting point or the place of coincidence of the indigo and violet chakras. So your pineal gland isn't only synonymous with your brow blue indigo chakra. Your pineal gland is the place where those two things come together. Brow, which is dark blue, and crown, which is violet colored. Both of those things come together in that area of your anatomy. So your lens that is moving like this, let's call that horizontal, but your crown is swirling around like this. Let's call that vertical. This is like helicopter blades, and this is like helicopter rotors. They're at complementary 90-degree angles. Wait, I should go like this. They're at complementary 90-degree angles. And what that has is a gyro-stabilizing effect. So when you have a helicopter, the actions of the whirling blades at the top and the whirling blades at the tail help that vehicle to fly smoothly through the physical atmosphere. When you have your energy anatomy here and here activated and whirling at optimum levels, it helps you to fly smoothly through time. So engagements of understanding or comprehension, cognitive events have to do with flying through time. You're flying on the timeline where you're learning things, and you want to fly steadily and stay straight and true on these timelines, being guided by these librarians or information keepers that help you to follow optimum pathways that lead to life as opposed to leading to death. Using the indigo lens to perceive higher reality. That is what you're doing. So wait. If you have not yet activated the crown chakra, it is not yet a stable system. This is what I'm talking about. So those who have just attained this level of Christ awakening, but have not yet gotten to activate their crown chakra, are actually very, very vulnerable, because they are beginning to perceive higher reality, but are still interpreting it through their human lens, and it's not yet a stable system. So there's some wibbling and wobbling that happens. Inner library card. This is also access to insight, information, inner sight, or pure light. That light, again, is non-optical light. Your attention that reaches out like a tendril. When you are focusing your mind on something or your awareness, a beam or a vortex of energy reaches out and touches whatever you are thinking about. This is big. You eat small amounts of the information that you touch upon or taste its truth. This is very similar to when you smell something with your nose. If you're smelling a rose, you know, you're actually breathing in small amounts of that rose. You're like, oh, how beautiful. Like I just ate a small amount of rose through my nose. It's beautiful. How about if you're smelling like poop? I'm like, you know, you just smelled poop. You just ate a small amount of poop through your nose. You're like, that's not that pleasant. Completely. That is completely accurate and truthful, which is why I tell you this, because I want you to go around smelling a lot of roses of true insight and true information and not touching on a lot of poo-poo. And there's a lot of poo-poo. And also what I was talking about for the first hour of this class, that is basically living in a world of poo-poo right now. There's a lot of frequency doo-doo that is out there that is not only just a sea of doo-doos, but is in many ways being beamed directly into your pineal gland. This is false light. False light is partial or erroneous information or artificial, not telling the whole story, not telling the whole truth information. And it is almost 100% calibrated to destroy you, as opposed to the true light of Christ that is calibrated to bring you into eternal life. When I use these words, I'm not necessarily referring to the religious theology, even though you can sense parallels to the anthropocentric stories of the New Testament. I'm really talking about a stream of light information that is coming into your cognitive processes that sustains you and keeps you alive and makes it so that these energy centers do not wobble like this, but they stay nice and straight, and you maintain your connection to God, the source, and return there and have no obstacles or impediments between yourself and the experience of God, the remembrance of God's self. Yes, okay, wait. So yes, you do not want to eat false information. You do not want to eat doo-doo, not even to touch on it to be like, that tastes terrible, or that's not truthful, or that's not whatever. You really don't want that. So really in this world that you've been in for the past 3 years, where this stuff has been atmospheric, it's been in everywhere, in everything, and everything you turn to, it's incredibly difficult to maintain your focus on the true light of Christ. And that is, you know, a part of spiritual muscle building and of attainment. But I also really want you to know that, you know, Christ, the larger meta organism, is similarly not sadistic. God is not a pain giver, and Christ is not a pain giver. And Christ also does not require these different backbends and acrobatics to prove that you are worth it, as religion often portrays on a human level, that you must be good enough to be able to be at these higher levels of being. It's not about being good enough, although it certainly is about being able to, you know, maintain your focus, maintain your attention, maintain coherence of your heart, all these different things. These are like very real. It's like cardio. Like we're going to run a marathon. Like you're going to have to be able to keep up. Like that is just truthful. It's not about whether you're good enough. Some of it is about whether you've had, you know, the opportunity to practice and self-cultivate. The things that have been going on this planet for the past 3 years make it incredibly difficult to run the spiritual marathon. And if you haven't been training already, and you just started within the past 3 years, boy, oh boy, is it extra difficult. It's like not only you don't have sneakers to run, but they tied a bunch of boulders to your ankles. So it's incredibly difficult if you haven't already created that foundation to in previous years, and then they rolled out the frequency Pupola factory, then incredibly difficult for you to begin to have these levels of attainment now. Difficult, but not impossible, but certainly a big challenge. Something that I missed is your inner sight is to be directed by the librarian of the universe, the crown of the violet chakra. This determines in which direction is truth. And where should the eye of mind or the eye of insight focus its attention? Should you focus over there? Should you focus over there? Because reading the books in order absolutely matters in terms of your education. So now let's get to food. This is what I teach about in Path of Light. take my Path of Light class. It's super fun. And I love it because I don't have to talk about pooties or poops or craps or anything like that. I just talk about pure divine light. Food is solidified sunlight, and it is necessary to ingest to feed your solidified light body. Food is solidified sunlight, and glucose is or are photons or packets of light that have willingly transformed themselves into molecular structures where they can be stored or paused so that they can then enter into your biology and then feed your biology. Remember I was telling you about that near infrared video that I appreciated so much? Pedro has a beautiful question. I'll get to that in a few minutes. Thank you. It's a beautiful question. Near infrared light. So near infrared light is non-optical light. It is experienced by us mostly as heat, although sometimes it is seen as the red color. It is the stuff that is coming off of the sun that is other than the light that we see with our physical eyes. Near infrared light is absolutely crucial for our body's healthy metabolism, for cell-to-cell communication, for cell repair, for regulating metabolism, and for having energy. There are tiny beings inside of your cells that are called subcellular organelles, organs within your cells, mitochondria, and your mitochondria are light sensitive. One of the things that red light, infrared light helps to do is change the viscosity of the watery solution that the mitochondria live within that make it easier for their little propellers to go. Like if the water is cold, they're like, I have to work so hard to make my propellers go, to make your energy go for your cells to move. And that's actually technically what aging is. But when you are exposed to infrared light, it penetrates at least 8 centimeters into your body. Infrared light comes from the sun. And we'll talk about the sun and the analogies of the physical sun in the sky and the Son of God. But basically, all that I want to say in emphasis of this is the sun is the sun and it doesn't have a shadow. The sun is the sun. It emits light. It doesn't have a darkness side to it. That is what true Christ is. That is what the true Son of God is. A light emitter, a sustainer of total information that is incontrovertible, that brings you in the right direction, that does not have a dark side. The religious trauma of me having to talk about for an hour all of this false light stuff. False light, and false light is of course different than darkness or ignorance. It is the distortion of light, that all of that does not in any way represent the characteristics. It's not related to the emitter of light. That's big. And I already ranted and was cheered in my comments section for my rant against New Age shadow work. And I continue to rant against it. How much I despise this tool of torture that is being perpetrated on the community of seekers who are interested in transpersonal development and also religious and spiritual attainment. Shadow work basically says erroneously, everything that's in the world is there because you created it there, you created and emanated all these things out of your mind. If something's there and you're experiencing it, it's part of your shadow or your inverted self-personality characteristics, you must claim it as your own, claim the fact that you created it in some way and that in doing so you will be free. But I already told you about these things that are purely synthetic constructs, that are thought forms that have nothing at all to do with you. You didn't think them, you didn't emanate them, you didn't make them happen. Someone else thought of the purple unicorn. It's floating around there on the astral realm. It's absolutely nothing to effing do with you. You don't have to say, oh, I encountered this purple unicorn. It must have something to say about me. I have to learn about myself. Let me examine it more. Let me talk to it more. Let me put my tendril of attention on it more. Let me, at a certain point, encompass it into me and say, I am purple unicorn too. You are not purple unicorn too. You are not those shadow poops. You are not the poop frequencies that have been perpetrated upon this planet while you are trying to achieve spiritual attainment. It's a method of torture. In the method of torture, and again, the torture of the military and intelligence agencies in our world is the visible tip of the iceberg of stuff that they do on the membrane of death. Like they're like, we're the experts over here. We taught them how to do it. So you break someone's will, you make them, and this is what Charlie B was saying, MK Ultra trauma-based mind control. You break somebody's will. You hammer away at them over and over and over, either assaulting them or accusing them or telling them something about themselves, like, you're a purple unicorn, you're a purple unicorn, you're a purple unicorn. And at a certain point, the subject's will is broken. They say, okay, I confess. I confess. Thank you. You've stuck hot pokers in me enough in the Inquisition. I admit I'm actually a purple unicorn, whether you believe it or whether you don't believe it. But then the torture stops. Ah, kumbaya, kumbaya, my little purple unicorn. I'm so happy that you admitted that about yourself now. It's totally not truthful. It is totally not truthful, but I, as the arbiter of false truth, will now stop torturing you. And you will say, aha, the secret was I had to learn I was a purple unicorn. Now I am free. And my facial expression facetiousness tells you that I am totally lying, because that's not freedom. That is a coerced confession under torture conditions. And that is what they do to POWs and political prisoners and people who go against regimes and people who need to be mind controlled, mind wiped, robotically controlled, mind controlled, Nintendo buttons, whatever it is. Pedro is encouraging me in my rant. Thank you very, very much. Yes, none of this has to do with your transpersonal growth. Learning more about who you are. Do you understand? None of that has anything at all to do with learning about who you really are. The refinery of consciousness. What is the unique recipe of personality characteristics and events and behaviors that leads you back to God? Being tortured and coerced until you finally confess and agree that you're a purple unicorn totally does not bring you to your freedom. All that shows is that everybody has a breaking point, that if somebody gives you enough pain and torment, eventually you'll agree to any facetious or flawed assertion just to make the pain stop. So there's torture, coercion, and then there's also the sense of what I'm trying to put it into words, torturing people into righteousness. Like this is me with the hot poker. Like if you're not good, like, I'm gonna poke you with a hot poker. I'm a demon. I'm gonna poke you with a hot poker. You better be good. Be like, I was thinking of stealing that pastry over there, but I'm not. Oh, I better not. There's a demon over there. He's gonna poke you with a hot poker. Like, it doesn't change who you are at all. All it means is that you're afraid of punishment. All of these justifications for why demons would be allowed to harm you totally do not lead to righteousness. You know what leads to righteousness? When you don't steal just because you don't steal. When you do things that are right, even when no one is looking. When you go above and beyond your definition of levels of responsibility, like my example of working at the coffee shop, like instead of saying, I'm just a stupid coffee shop person, I don't fix things, and being like, the refrigerator seems broken, maybe I should fix it or do something about it, call the repairman. Any of those things are what true spiritual attainment is about. That is what being a mature galactic citizen is genuinely about. Being responsible means being responsive to, not simply saying, oh, I shrug my shoulders, oh, shoulders up to my ears. Don't want to ask me, I just work here. Like, I don't do stuff, I just work here. But you more than just work here. Technically, you actually are God, and technically you actually created this world. And yes, you are here walking around within your own creation for the purpose of experiencing it, for the purpose of externalizing your internal experience. And if there are problems and flaws, for the purpose of fixing it and making it better. Pedro says, you ranto, I err. We put the Merkabahs and rectify the shadows. Very good, very good. I will rant away. Thank you for bearing the intensity of my energy. You guys put up the Merkabahs and actually fix these broken coffee machines that need to be whatever serviced, and so that the coffee tastes a lot better at the interdimensional coffee shop here. Yes, you cannot torture someone or coerce someone into being a good person. And that's the flaw of the demonic inquisition, especially the frequency inquisition that is going on in this world right now. Remember, elevator up, elevator down. Who gets elevator up? Who gets rewarded? Is it people who are genuinely doing the right thing Is it people who are randomly rewarded? Who gets punished? Who gets elevated down? Who gets to feel like they're in hell? Are there people who are genuinely deserving of it? I have talked with so many targeted individuals who are genuinely not deserving of frequency torture, which again comes from the intelligence and military agencies that are the tip of the iceberg of the real frequency torturers that exist in the astral hell realms. They know exactly how to do this to people and make you think that you deserve it. Like maybe you didn't send somebody a birthday card in 3rd grade, or maybe whatever, you baked a souffle and it fell, or whatever happened, but they will be like, you're guilty, and now you deserve this torture. You don't deserve torture. This is like big message from the real God. You don't deserve torture. And anything that says that to you is completely erroneous, and please throw it out the window and do not internalize to that as truth, but something that wanted to behaviorally control you would say, you've done something wrong. You deserve to be tortured. And if you only jump through these hoops for me, then I will be very happy to stop this torture for you. It has absolutely nothing at all to do with your righteousness and your goodness and whether you belong in the true heavens, which is as a beam of light flying around in total freedom, playing the most amazing music of the symphony of life. The rest of the beautiful aspects of self that have reached that level of attainment that are also you. Okay. I don't know if my rant is over, but I want to get to the rest of my notes before too much more time goes by. I already got to how you have to get all the way up to your crown and not just stop the experience here at this level over here. I did, so this is kind of like Walter Russell. Walter Russell was from the 1800s. He talked a lot about like the male energy, the female energy, the this, the that. In my notes from 10 years ago, I talk about this Christ chakra being like a male energy because it sticks out, like male anatomy sticks out, and this crown chakra as being like female anatomy because it is receptive, receives impulses and information from God. But I think we have to throw out all of these things that are about gender roles and what is a male characteristic, what is a female characteristic, and all of those things. It's just languaging that is not effective. But we can say assertive or directive. This is a assertive, directive, specific aspect of your anatomy that specifically touches on things, and that this is a receptive aspect of your anatomy that receives in great levels of sensitivity. Both aspects of this energetic anatomy working together add up to a whole person, which is that's what marriage and relationships is supposed to be like. Everybody's laughing, knees slapping. You're like, that's what relationships are supposed to be like. Oh my goodness. No, okay. Okay, so why do I have to translate that knee slapper there? Because in many ways, relationships are about exploiting other people's energy, power dynamics, things that are socially advantageous, of convenience, that are not necessarily about the complementary characteristics of males and females that come together and create progeny, which is the next generation. Something from mom and something from dad comes together to make the new baby. And that technically is the new reality structure that you are giving birth to. But the whole analogy is so challenging in terms of relationships and romanticism that I can just barely even go through it because, and you can also then laugh at me because it's like, Aurora is such an outsider. Like she doesn't even know how screwed up mating and dating is on this planet. It's like, okay, yes, it's true. All right, guys, it's true. Okay, so what does the aperture actually do? This lens that is right here is created out of nothing more than the whirling and swirling energy of time. This is big. It requires a critical mass to create the lens, but once created, it is not only a portal or a system of interpretation through which you perceive the world, it is also a shield. So before you can access sunlight directly, tune into the Son of God directly, that's up there in the sky, you need to have proper shielding or sun protection, because if you're exposed to too much high energy radiation of divine consciousness all at once without any type of filter, you will get vaporized. You will go from a solid into a plasma that fast. And you don't want that to happen. What you want to have happen is to have that light from the sun come into your body and go through your circulatory system of light, So that's what I want to just go back to this screen share. Where is the screen share? Sorry, guys. Where did it go? Hold on a second. Now it's going to be there. Okay, this one over here. Near infrared light deprivation and our health, Dr. Bean medical lectures. What I really appreciated about that video about near infrared light is that it talks all about how near infrared light, when it comes into your body, bounces around subcutaneously, similar to the way that light waves that are optical bounce around through an fiber optics network, like one of the cables that brings information to your computer, or one of those, you know, household decorations that has like a set of frond like, you know, flexible glass tubes, each of which has at the end of it a little point of light. Literally, the light that comes into you that is infrared, that is non-optical light from the sun, it goes underneath subcutaneously under your skin and bounces, bounces, bounces. Near infrared light also can go through your eyelids. So the last part of this teaching is all about sun gazing. Let's just, I actually will like to end this class pretty soon because the sun is going to go down through the window and I want to be able to do my sun gazing. Sun gazing is a way of going into direct rapport and light eating, bypassing the necessity of glucose, bypassing the necessity of putting light information into your intestines and having it indirectly absorbed in your body, and also having to pass through all of the fiber and non-digestible stuff that is not light, because food contains a certain proportion of light, but not 100% light. You connect with the sun by using this aperture and this guide. You get 100% light. And that light circulates throughout your body in a circulatory system of light that is known as your chakra system. All right. So the light that enters into you through this aperture, not actually through these apertures, even though visible light is very important. But what I've learned from all of the sky poop and pollution and blocking out of the natural sun and things like that, what really matters is the connection of my insight and my mind of Christ to the true sun that is in existence, not line of sight direction between my physical eyes and whatever is the glowing ball of light that's in the sky. Because sometimes you guys know the glowing ball of light that's in the sky might be hot LED, pure white, not the beautiful gentle sun that is the true gentle sun. And also the light that is in the sky right now in many ways does not have the normal quotient of infrared light that we ordinarily feel. And that is because infrared light absolutely fries nano wetware. And the stuff that is the nano wetware parasite that is in conjunction with and created from the interdimensional parasite poops that are the whatever never alives. The never alives are like, I've never been alive, but if I create this poop, spray it in the atmosphere, it gets inside of you, I can kind of live through you. And yeah, it would be akin to demonic possession, which is just this dark stuff. This is very bad stuff. We don't want that at all. So I have a whole class and have a wonderful group, not even a class, but just a group of mutual support and inspiration of one another of how to detox from that. And then also sharing some of my techniques that involve the use of the infrared light panel, because I find that it has helped a lot in terms of regaining my willpower and my inner peace from the constant barrage of false light doo-doo trying to be beamed into me. So infrared even does penetrate your skull, because initially I thought like, oh, like it goes into your skin, maybe into the fat right underneath your skin. No, it goes 8 centimeters into whatever is in your body. Near infrared actually travels quite long distances. So it can travel like, you know, whatever, across space, quite a long distance, but it can also travel quite well through your body. And it does go through your skull. And in this video that I encourage you to watch, it says how it can go through your skull and actually go into the area directly beneath your meninges, the skull covering, and bounce around in there, similar to the optic cables, that the light actually reaches and penetrates deep into the bumpy, curvy surface of your brain. In regular traditional science, it helps with things that are anti-aging, antioxidants, again, mitochondria. Again, I talked about cell-to-cell communication, and most importantly, a hormone that is known as melanin. Da, da, da. Quick. The pineal gland emits 3 hormones: melatonin, melanin, and DMT, dimethyltryptamine. Dimethyltryptamine is a hallucinogenic. When people take it recreationally as an endogenous brain chemical, it helps you to get into your body and get out of your body. Get into your body before you get born, get out of your body when you die. Melanin is the stuff that makes your skin tan. It is protective skin coating, not coating, chemical that helps to block out excessive light and protects us in many ways. Melatonin, different from melanin. Melatonin is known as the sleep chemical because when we do not get exposed to too much blue light, which is what our noonday sun is, and we are instead exposed to light that is red shifted, our body gets the message that it's time to go to sleep soon. But it's now, watch the video, shown that that level of melatonin is only 5% of what is available as a hormone in your body. Melatonin is a basic building block and a part of your whole entire endocrine system that's incredibly important to have. It's not just about being able to get good sleep. So not only like turn off your iPads and redshift everything down to yellow on your phone all the time so that you're not preventing your brain from creating this natural melatonin. Get near infrared light, because that near infrared light makes your cells create melatonin. 95% of the melatonin that's in your body is in your cellular structure, independent of your pineal gland. And it again helps with cell repair, cell-to-cell communication, mitochondrial health and mitochondrial metabolism and release of energy. You need to eat light. Some of the light that you need to eat is the light of pure consciousness. Some of the light you need to eat is optical. Some of the light you need to eat is non-optical. It's known as infrared. Big. When you do sun gazing, infrared light can come in even when your eyelids are closed. So I have an infrared light panel before I wake up in the morning. Here's me in my bed. I just woke up. My eyes aren't even open yet. I turn off the alarm. I turn on my light panel. I hold it over my head like this, hold it in front of my face like this with my eyes closed. It is going inside of me and helping, do this for a brief session before I even get up and get out of bed. It can go through your eyelids, is what I'm trying to say. So it's not necessary to stare directly at the sun with your eyes fully open in order to achieve the benefits of sun gazing. Let me just go through a little bit more and then tell you how to do sun gazing. Then I'm going to actually go and do sun gazing. So just like running a small business, when you run a small business, I run a small business. What you have to do is first, the hard part is bootstrapping yourself on up. You're like, I'm starting with $0. I got to make some money before I can even do something simple. Like, I run a microgreens business, buy some snippers and snip my microgreens, or buy a scale to be able to measure them. It's like, first I got to make some money before I can even get my basic equipment. But at a certain point, when you run a small business, you're like, I just invested in a super efficient whatever tool or equipment apparatus. Although it cost me $100, I could use it to make $1,000. Got it? You gotta, hey kid, I'm chomping my cigar. You gotta spend money to make money. But this is very truthful in terms of getting enough heart coherence to activate your Christ and crown chakra, because save your money in the energy bank. Hey kid, save the money in your energy bank. Don't spend it all in one place. And then when this and this are activated, they will give you all of the ideas and guidance that you need to have a healthy, adventurous, amazingly fantastic and expansive experience. So in terms of running a small business, that would be like saying, I bought a industrial size oven. Now I can bake 12 pies at once instead of 1 pie at a time. I just increased my productivity by times 12. But the investment in that oven was a lot. Invest in the cultivation of your higher faculties and your higher senses and the capacity to eat light directly from the sun. So initially you might not have this capacity because you're a small business and you're just starting out. Save your money. Hey kid, save your money, save your money, save your money. And then at a certain point, you have enough heart coherence to reach out to the sun with your own tendril of attention and then you get $1 billion. $1 billion of love and encouragement and guidance. Basically, how do I have it written down here? Which thoughts to think, and how to think them in the correct order. And in order to eat sunlight directly, it's necessary to install a mental program or a new way of even thinking about food, light, nutrition, and ingesting nutrition. So practical tips in terms of direct ingestion of nourishment from the sun: you gather and accrete enough energy to grow this energetic anatomy. You cultivate unconditional love to activate or awaken your pineal gland. Hey kid, save your money. This is a light sensor, vestigial outgrowth of reptiles. Aurora, now you're telling me I'm a reptile. Vestigial means ancestral, and then you've got a lot of stuff on top of there. So don't jump out the window that you have some ancestral reptilian influences. All right. Don't look at the sun directly with your physical eyeballs. Close your eyelids, close them fully, or squint through your lashes, or use a hat to filter the light, or the curtains on the window, or I like to use trees because the trees are super intelligent, completely virtuoso, ascending masters themselves. And so early in the day, the sun is just coming up through the trees, perfect time to sun gaze because the leaves of the trees kind of make it sparkle like this, and it comes right inside of you. Same thing with the end of the day. And it happens out my window in the other room. So I'll go sit in my sun gazing chair and get all the light at the end of the day coming through those trees. Filtered light, not full on light. Protect your physical eyes. Do not burn your photoreceptors, your retina. Ingest light early in the day and late in the day. The lower inclination of the light means more atmospheric filtering is happening, and that also means that it's red shifted. You'll get more of the red spectrum, less of the blue, less of the damaging optical light that is available in the noonday sun, which is sometimes enough to fry and damage our physical bodies. But the near infrared and red light is nourishing and healing and protecting of our body. And I also use skin protectant oils for when I'm outside. Everyone in town also knows me. I wear a giant hat with a giant brim, a giant rainbow hat. You can use jojoba oil, carrot seed oil, coconut oil, or non-nano titanium dioxide minerals that are not nano, that are not going to soak into your bloodstream, or some other positive forms of non-chemical pollutant. But protect your skin, protect your skin. Okay. There were times when I didn't have enough gas in my car to do my sun gazing. You need to have gas in your car. It means you need to sit down and meditate. Even if you're a highly developed person, this can happen at times. You have to be radically in love with yourself, compassionate, forgiveness. Don't pressure yourself, because you might be going through some stuff where you're like, you have total, no time to meditate, no time for this, no time for that. Your attention is all over the place. And then you're like, wow, I can't even sun gaze. You haven't lost your touch. You haven't lost your mojo. You just need to get your unconditional love energy banks refilled again. And I joke about how I am solar powered and I need to charge my batteries. I wrote this 10 years ago. The sun was different in the sky. My experience was different. I moved to California in order to be able to have 100% access to sun all the time. Where I live right now, it's usually very sunny, even in the wintertime. We've had the rainiest, crappiest winter, and it has been so difficult for me to be able to get the amount of sunlight that I need. So it's like needing enough food. You can starve for light in dark times, in winter times. It's really, really essential to be able to get enough light. Let me read what's going on. When you fast, does the body try to eat light? You know what I would say? Yes, no, it really depends. I think that some aspects of fasting can be purifying, but I think that other aspects of fasting can cause a fight or flight reflex in the adrenals, as the body is like, my tummy is empty, I think I'm going to die, we better go get some donuts right away. So I think that it's really essential to recognize what is correct for you. Like there's intermittent fasting, there's autophagy, where you don't eat after the sun goes down and then kind of wait until the next morning to eat. But all of these things really do require a way of communicating to yourself, like, although I'm not ingesting physical calories right now, I'm not going to die. Like you kind of assuage your concerns there. And also you might compensate by eating more at other times in order to make up for the times when you're fasting. So I've been a hybrid the whole time. It's not enough for me just to eat light. have to eat both light and physical food. And just eating physical food is not enough for me either. That's a very, very depressive thing. So I need to do both of these things, although I sometimes do the autophagy, but not all the time. All right. In order to utilize your higher consciousness in individual form, it is necessary to get energy directly from pure consciousness and begin to bypass the physical food energy source. So this is part of becoming a light being, becoming a light eater, planetary and personal ascension. There's lots of stuff that I have in my notes about karma, but basically the answer is you're not a bad person if you eat. You're not a bad person if you eat both plants or animals. You're not a bad person if you have to sustain yourself in that way. That's part of the genetic degradation. Don't resonate with genetic implants of unworthiness, and there are metabolic residues that happen as the end result of eating physical foods. Like, you got to clean your teeth, you got to brush your teeth. And there's other things that happen as metabolites that you have to clean out of your body, which is why autophagy can be helpful in that sense. But please don't judge yourself for eating. But the ideal is to return to who you truly are as a pure light eater, which also includes the sacred breath of chi or prana or life force energy coming into you. And it's a big part of this attainment of returning to a light eater, clearing out the effing interstices of all of the demon poops, clearing out all of the frequency poo-poo that has been here in this world, and preventing anything from blocking out the true light of our sun, of the Son of God coming into this world. So if you're like, I think I'm going to achieve spiritual attainment today, no more food for me, just light eating and prana. In this moment, it's going to be very, very difficult. You need to clean house first. You need to clean out all these things that have literally been placed there as obstacles to prevent your spiritual attainment, which is why I don't necessarily look at them as or interpret them as a necessary rite of passage. The different esoteric practices associated in engaging, eating directly the sun, solar consciousness, and Christ consciousness. Whoa. Sorry, I didn't read that correctly, because I want to get on to, and when you take a sun bath is not just like sunbathing where you just lay out and be like, oh, like the sun feels so good on my body, although it feels good. A sun bath is when you have light from the sun going through all of your circulatory system so that it engages all of your chakras. It doesn't vaporize you. It doesn't kill you or kill your personality or who you truly are. It energizes everything. Every single one of these is a whirling wheel of energy. And when you do a sun bath correctly, you go like, and you're like, I'm now going so fast. This feels amazing. So the last part of my notes is how to flying rainbow lasagna with the sun. That's big because sun gazing is like sending my tendril of attention out, breathing it in, breathing it in, breathing it in. This is also a practice that has been done many, many thousands of years. It's a little bit different than flying rainbow lasagnaing with the sun. The sun is over there, and I've got either one point here in my heart or here inside of the center of my head. It's the singularity. And I send the singularity that is within me out to the sun, but I recognize that it is the same singularity, and then my attention or my focus bounces back to me. We do this 8 times, and I joke about this, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're lasagnaing because it is a dance. But what it feels like to me is a very, very fast, like, and flying rainbow lasagnaing with the sun can be a very effective way of jumping up and over any obstacles. And that is what I do. So I know that I just did like a super fast explanation of what it is to flying rainbow lasagna with the sun. Maybe not enough for all of you. And I feel like I didn't do it justice at all. Pedro says, sometimes it feels like we are cleaning the pooties with a toothbrush when I wish I had a giant vacuum cleaner. I very much agree with you. And I think that it's essential to do that house cleaning and just have it be done so that we can be in our levels of true personal growth and true exploration of who we are, that this is incredibly boring and is its own form of torture via tedium to have to maintain cleaning up endless negative time loops. And it says, do we have to use one FRL? Can we use both for sun gazing? You can use multiple FRLs. You can do FRLing. You can have multiple FRL structures going in multiple different directions in all these different ways. The key aspect of how can flying rainbow lasagna help you to connect with the sun? What if it's a cloudy day? I can use the flying rainbow lasagna to jump past the clouds and connect with the sun? What if there's an array of lenses or a sun simulator standing in front of the true sun? Here's the true sun, and then here's something fake. I can jump up and over the fake thing, get to the true sun. What if the true sun is on the other side of the planet because it's nighttime? You can use the flying rainbow lasagna to jump to the true sun. Doing the flying rainbow lasagna is like having an industrial oven. Hey kid, save your money. You're going to need to have a little bit of money to invest in that capacitation, but once you achieve that capacitation, it will make you a lot of money. You will be able to ingest a huge amount of energy directly from the sun, and it will sustain you. So it's very, very worth it. So I glossed over it too much, but the key aspect of flying rainbow lasagna and the key aspect of the path of light is the comprehension that the singularity is only single. There's one singularity. It resides inside of you and it resides inside of the sun. There's actually no space between both of you. So although I talk about this as if it is a thing here jumps to a thing there, and then I'm jumping across 93 million miles of space, the true teaching, or more accurate level of the teaching, is bending and folding time-space so that the sun comes so close to me that it not only is it not 93 million miles away, it's literally right here inside of my head. And that when you have that level of attainment, you're getting to the level of being able to eat the sun directly. The sun is going down and I need to go eat the sun directly. You just saw the lighting change. Let me go do it. I hardly ever do this, guys, because I'm always like, let's talk. Any more Q&A, all these different things. Melissa says, thank you, love you. Aurora, you are the best as always. Thank you so much, Melissa. Truly love and appreciate you. Love received. Thank you for being in the class. Apologies on being so abrupt at ending things for today, but truly I need to go and sun gaze. Let me go ingest my light, everyone. Pedro says, sorry, Adam, for making Aurora skip your comment. Oh, I missed it because I didn't see it over there. Adam says, I've noticed some days when I sun gaze, I feel the connection, warmth, energy, but others, not much of that connection. Very rarely, it's very intense. The sun is supposed to be always there for us, and it's supposed to be something that is so easy and accessible to us without a ton of technological interference from the poop crapola. It's been incredibly difficult. Don't take it personally. Sometimes you don't have enough gas in your car in order to be able to drive your Ferrari of higher senses. Sometimes there are larger difficulties, environmental difficulties, that it's incredibly difficult to get past in order to do sun gazing. All of these are assaults on true Christ consciousness by Antichrist or false Christ or false light. So I should end by giving you some beautiful hope. The sun is ineffable. Light is ineffable, meaning you can't actually stop it, even though I talk about false light and these other things and illusions and things that are distortions. Light and light speed and the magnificence and intelligence of light and presence of light are actually not able to be diluted and are actually ever present there for us. That's the real positive ending to this story. Good. Adam says he doesn't mind. And again, apologies for scrolling past so quickly. So everybody, I encourage you to go do some sun gazing. I don't know if it's the right time of day for you, but please do it. Also, when I do this, place my tongue on the roof of my mouth. Pedro says, can you comment about the painting? Love the lasagna. Oh, you wanted to know. Sorry. It says, question about, do I have a painting portrait of my light body before I came to Earth? So it would look very similar. Ooh, it would look very similar to some of these paintings that I have like this, but just without the human figure. It would look a lot like this, but without the human figure. So I'm literally just a waveform, but not 2 arms and 2 legs. So I think it would look a lot more like the paintings that you see on the wall behind me over here that are just 100% pure abstraction without the human form in there. So let me just say thank you, everyone, for allowing me my rant, for listening to these different concepts that I have. And then definitely thank you for being on board and focusing attention on the things that I teach that are from 10 years ago. Those things all stand. Those things are undiluted. Those things are completely still valid and appropriate, even amidst all of the challenges that we're facing right now, that just, sorry if my mind is just not focused right now, but all the things that I've been teaching about, and flying rainbow lasagna with the sun, doing sun gazing, have a circulatory system of light, cultivating your light body, cultivating your higher faculties, all of these things still stand. All of these things are always in style. They are always appropriate. But then also we face some things now that others have never faced, and we sometimes have to innovate in order to be able to get past them. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much. And I look forward to your questions and comments in chat and in email. Thank you.